The GIGABYTE WINDFORCE OC RTX 4070 is one of the most affordable 4070 versions out there. But what is it like in terms of quality, noise and performance? Let's find out. I would call this a normal-sized GPU. It is just 2.5 slots thick, it is not that tall, and let's take a look at its length. It is 263 millimeters long. The card features a fairly large heatsink with 3 heat pipes on this side and 3 on this side as well. 3 80mm fans are moving the air, and there's also a cutout at the back providing extra cooling capabilities. This backplate is metal and the shroud is just your simple black plastic. In terms of ports, the power is delivered via a single 8-pin power connector, and we have 1 HDMI and 3 display ports. Here's what it looks like as part of my Ryzen 5 7600X based PC build. It is perfect for 1440p as well as 4K gaming. As you can see, there are no LED lights anywhere on this card. If I were building a gaming PC featuring the RTX 4070, then I would pick this setup. The 165Hz 1440p Gigabyte M27Q IPS monitor is the perfect match to this GPU. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can buy them on Amazon at the links in the description below. During normal gaming, this graphics card sucks down between 180 to 200 watts of power. And in terms of temperature, the GPU is running at 63 degrees Celsius, GPU hotspot is at 75, and VRAM hotspot is at 70 degrees. And that's in a room with ambient temperature at 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. In terms of noise, it is just slightly more noisy than I would have liked, because I have whisper quiet, be quiet fans over here, so my PC normally doesn't make any noise and I can game using speakers, no problem, with the tower just sitting there right next to me. However, with the GIGABYTE WINDFORCE OC, I'm a little bit on the fence about just using speakers. But if you're using headphones, then that's not gonna be a problem at all. And let's take a listen to it. I'm going to use my wireless microphone to give you a taste of what the noise is like. As you can see, the noise is nothing to be worried about with this card, and the GPU RPM is at close to 1900. Yeah, not great, not great. If it were at around 1600, then I assume the noise would not be an issue at all. Unfortunately, if you want a properly quiet experience with whisper quiet fans, then you'll have to go for a more expensive GPU with a better cooler. Let's see if the RTX 4070 is enough to enjoy the latest AAA games of 2024 on a 1440p monitor using the highest graphics quality presets. Let's start our testing with Hellblade 2, which is one of the most graphically demanding games of this year. We are at 1440p native resolution, DLAA is enabled, and we are using the very highest graphics quality preset, which is high. And right from the start, this does not look promising at all. We are getting 40 plus FPS in one of the less demanding scenes in the game. Yes, sometimes you will get 50, but let's see how far down this FPS will go. Right now, we are experiencing 30 plus FPS, and I suspect that this is mainly because this game has ray tracing, and that eats up a lot of resources. Ray tracing is still very expensive, especially for mid-range GPUs. Maybe we can get a good experience using the medium graphics quality preset? Let's have a look. Yes, this is better. We're getting 60 FPS in this location here. However, that means that the FPS will indeed drop below 60 in some of the most demanding areas of the game. Like right now, we are at 49 FPS. So while this is a pretty good experience, still, 47, but I still prefer having 60 FPS in this game, because it has some beautiful combat, and we just don't want to experience that choppiness that is 40 FPS. I wonder, will we be able to achieve a 60 plus FPS experience if we select low graphics preset? And it looks like this might be it. It is quite possible that we'll be able to stay, if not above 60 at all times, at least close to 60. So let's see, 58, 60, 61. Will the FPS drop again below 60? Yes, once again, 58, 57. Yeah, that is wild. 56. It is wild that the RTX 4070 cannot keep up with the latest, most demanding games at 1440p, even if we use the lowest graphics quality preset. However, I must say that even low graphics preset still looks amazing in this game, way better than medium and possibly even high in some games. Textures look fine, rocks are beautiful, trees look great, and the lighting effects are still decent. Character models also look nice and highly detailed, even though this is a low quality preset. But let's go back to high graphics quality preset and try achieving that 60 plus FPS experience using resolution upscaler or possibly even frame generation, because that is a very viable option. After all, DLSS quality mode looks pretty good at 1440p resolution, so let's try that. This is better, 60 FPS, well, almost 60 FPS. However, once we start descending further into the forest, the FPS will surely drop below 60. And there we go, 50, 48, 46. Yeah, even DLSS quality doesn't help us that much in achieving that smooth 60 FPS experience. So we must find other ways to improve our experience. Let's try enabling frame generation. Okay, now this is promising. Check it out. I think we will be able to stay above 60 FPS using these settings. This is high graphics quality preset, DLSS upscaling set to quality, and frame generation is enabled. And indeed, we're staying well above 60 FPS. Very nice. And the image quality is absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever. This game is better played with a controller, and even with frame generation enabled, controls feel fine. It is absolutely fine. But let's see if mouse and keyboard feel as good. Yes, indeed. Mouse feels very responsive, no issues. Well, there you have it. You cannot have a consistent 60 plus FPS experience at native 1440p using the RTX 4070 in Hellblade 2, which is one of the most demanding games of this year. If you want to use the highest graphics quality preset, like I'm doing right now, you have to enable DLSS quality as well as frame generation. Although I can't say that this is a bad experience by any means, it is absolutely beautiful, no issues, everything works fine. I cannot spot any major visual issues with this graphics settings configuration. Next up is Ghost of Tsushima, and this game is far less GPU demanding than Hellblade 2, so let's see how it does using very high graphics quality preset and native 1440p resolution. No DLSS, no frame generation for now, but we'll also check them out regardless of the performance that we'll get at native. And have a look at this. This is promising. 70 plus FPS in the Golden Temple area. That is nice. So yeah, there are still games that are coming out in 2024 that are very much okay with running at 60 plus FPS native 1440p resolution. The frame rate and frame time graphs are absolutely nice and flat. That's what we want to see. This is a very smooth experience indeed. Oh, and check this out. Even in this area right here, we are still getting 70 plus FPS. And I think over here, yeah, 69 FPS, very nice. Yeah, there you have it. And we're using 10 gigabytes of video memory. The GPU is sucking down just over 190 watts of power. Let's see how many more frames per second we'll get with DLSS frame generation. So right now in this scene we are experiencing 76 FPS. Let's go ahead and enable DLSS frame generation, and it added about 10 frames. Not bad, but also not very impressive. This is still not enough to get that consistent 90 FPS experience if you want to lock the FPS at 90. Now let's disable frame generation and enable DLSS upscaling set to quality. Whoa, check it out. Upscaling is actually doing a pretty good job compared to frame generation in this game. We are already getting 90 plus FPS. That is without frame generation. Yeah, this is nice. If you are after a more fluid experience than 60 FPS, then just enable DLSS quality in this game and lock your FPS at 90. Lastly, let's see what happens when we add frame generation into the mix. That is DLSS frame generation. We'll also check out AMD's frame generation next. And this is not quite enough to get the FPS up to that 120 mark. That is like the next level after 90. Yeah, this is not worth it, I don't think. But if you don't want to lock your FPS and you want as many frames as possible on your screen, then this is a viable option to get over 100 FPS. But we can also use AMD's FSR 3 frame generation, and you can use it with DLSS upscaling enabled. That is pretty cool. So let's do that. DLSS set to quality and AMD frame generation. Ooh, check it out. AMD's frame generation is generating a lot more frames, so you can get that 120 FPS experience if you use DLSS set to quality and AMD's frame generation instead of NVIDIA's. Although I must say that AMD's frame generation still doesn't look as nice as NVIDIA's, so I guess this is quality over quantity kind of argument. But I can't say that AMD's frame generation is a bad experience by any means. It is fine. The last game I want to check today is Horizon Forbidden West. This is another Sony Studios game, and we're using very high graphics preset, native 1440p resolution, no DLSS upscaling or frame generation for now. And in this area, which is quite GPU demanding, we are getting 60 plus FPS consistently. However, there's one place that I want to visit where the FPS drops even further. Normally, that is. I've seen 63 just then, but I don't see a problem with this. We're still staying above 60, 62. Yeah, so 62 is the lowest number that I've seen. This is great. Check it out. In some scenes we are getting well above 70, even 80 from time to time. And the gameplay is nice and smooth, as illustrated by the frame rate and frame time graphs. Check it out, they are nice and flat. What about frame generation? Will it work fine in this game? We're currently getting 71 FPS, and let's enable frame generation to see how many more frames will we get. We're getting 10 extra frames per second exactly. Yeah, this is not a lot, but it's still something. The image is now more fluid, so if you like high refresh rates, then frame generation will help you achieve a better experience in the latest games. Now let's disable frame generation and try upscaling DLSS quality. Let's give it a go. And while the FPS is above 90 right now, check out that frame time and frame rate graphs. Yeah, the experience is not as smooth. I don't know why that is. I've tried disabling and enabling NVIDIA's reflex. Actually, I've reloaded the game several times to make sure that we are getting good performance, but it doesn't help, which is very strange indeed. I can't say that this is horrible, because we are not getting stutters. If we were getting stutters, you would see a lot more aggressive fluctuations on that frame time graph. So I guess this is fine, but it's not ideal. Let me try and restart my PC. Sometimes software just breaks and you have to restart the PC just to get it working right again. And the full PC restart didn't help. Check it out, that frame rate graph is still not as flat as I would like to see it. Yeah, that is a shame. Let's see if we can rectify that by disabling NVIDIA Reflex, because sometimes that does mess with frame rates. And no, it's the same. Same result. One last configuration left to check is NVIDIA's DLSS set to quality, and let's add frame generation into the mix. It's not quite possible to achieve a 120 FPS experience, but we're getting well above 90, so it is possible to just lock the FPS at 90 and enjoy the game like that. Let's give it a try. I'm using RTSS to lock my FPS at 90. Will it feel good? Something is off. Hold on, let me just disable that overlay and see. The image is quite stuttery for some reason. Yeah, I don't like that. And that just shows that frame time and frame rate graphs aren't always the best way to analyze what's going on. Your eyes should be the judge of your experience, basically, because this is not good. It is just stuttery. I don't know. I don't like this experience. So I guess the best way is just to leave that FPS uncapped and enjoy the game like this. Because check this out, now the gameplay is nice and smooth. Even though I haven't changed any graphic settings. Yeah, be careful when you cap your FPS. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. In conclusion, you can still count on the RTX 4070 to deliver a good 60 plus FPS experience on a 1440p monitor in the latest AAA games of 2024, using even the highest quality presets. However, it is not every game. As you've seen with Hellblade 2, you have to go down as low as the lowest graphics quality preset if you want to use the RTX 4070, if you want to play it at native 1440p. And there will be more of those GPU demanding games coming later this year, as well as in 2025 and beyond. So it appears that the RTX 4070 is actually starting to show its age. So it might be a good idea to think about buying the RTX 4070 Super instead if you want to play at 1440p native. Let's see if we can enjoy the latest games of 2024 on a 4K screen using the RTX 4070 graphics card. I've paired it with the Ryzen 5 7600X CPU and the 4K 240Hz MSI 321URX gaming monitor. We are in Hellblade 2 and let's start our test at native 4K resolution using the highest graphics quality preset, which is high. FYI, this preset includes ray tracing. And right from the start, this does not look good. 25 FPS, and we haven't even descended into the worst case scenario area, which is this right here. 18 FPS I've seen just then. 18 FPS, 17 FPS. So yeah, it definitely won't do. We are not going to be able to play this game at native resolution using the 4070. If we are looking to achieve a consistent 60 plus FPS experience even in worst case scenarios, then we will have to use DLSS resolution upscaling and possibly even frame generation. Let's start with DLSS set to performance mode. Frame generation is disabled for now, but we'll take a look at that later on. Just a reminder that when you select DLSS performance mode on a 4K monitor, that means that you're upscaling from 1080p up to 4K. And generally, it looks pretty good. In terms of performance, we're getting close to 50 FPS in this area right here. Oh, 49 just then. So that tells me that it will not be enough to get a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. However, due to the way this game plays, I think most of you will be fine if you see 40 plus FPS on the screen. But obviously it is not ideal. So even using DLSS performance mode, we do need the help of frame generation, it appears so. Because from time to time we're getting dips below 40. From here, there's two ways we can go about improving the FPS. That is either using frame generation or reducing graphics quality preset. Let's start with reducing graphics quality preset down to medium, because even on medium this game looks amazing. Just a reminder that DLSS is still set to performance. And take a look at this. This is what we want to see. Above 60 FPS in most cases, but it appears that there are dips below 60 from time to time. There we go, 58 just then, 57. Will it drop further? No, it appears to be fine. I think that this kind of performance is perfect. In worst case scenarios, we are dropping just below 60, and in other scenes, we're getting well above 60. So that is pretty good in my opinion. Another way we can try and achieve that kind of performance is by going back to high quality graphics preset and simply enabling frame generation to help us out. DLSS is still set to performance. This looks promising. Above 70 FPS in this location, but the main question is, will it drop below 60 here? We're staying above 60. Yes, 60 exactly. Will it drop? 59. But briefly, very briefly, the FPS dropped to 59. This is a good experience. The image is nice and fluid, and the controls latency is absolutely fine. By the way, this game is best played with a controller, not keyboard and mouse. There's one more settings configuration I would like to try. Let's set DLSS upscaling to balanced, keep frame generation on, and let's keep the graphics preset on high. I want to know if we can use DLSS balanced purely because if you are gaming on a 4K 32-inch screen, like this monitor right here, then having DLSS on balanced is a little bit better than on performance mode, because we'll be able to see a little bit more of those finer details. It's not that DLSS performance looks bad at 4K, it looks fine. It's just that balanced or quality, for obvious reasons, look much better. And we are still getting above 50 FPS. I think that this is a perfectly fine experience. I don't have a problem playing this game like so. It's a shame that this graphics card is falling just a little bit short when it comes to its compute power. To actually be able to play this game on DLSS balanced with frame generation on, using the highest graphics quality preset at a consistent 60 FPS experience. Yeah, that's just not happening. You have to use DLSS performance. It's just not a good sign for the future, because there will be a lot more demanding games like this one here in 2025, for example. And if you are thinking about buying the RTX 4070 now, then I assume that you are planning to keep it at least for 1 year. That's when the 4070 Super might be the better option. I plan on comparing the two GPUs, so stay tuned for that video. But if you do want to keep using DLSS balanced with frame generation enabled, then you will have to lower that graphics quality preset. Let's enable medium preset and take a look at the performance. And there we go, 80 plus in this scene. And I think we will be able to keep that FPS well above 60. Yep, judging by the performance here, it will be 70 plus. This is pretty nice. This is another viable settings configuration if you want to play this game using the RTX 4070 at 4K. Ghost of Tsushima is an easier game to run, so let's keep our graphics preset on very high. Throughout the whole time we are going to test this game, we will just be playing around with frame generation and DLSS resolution upscaling. But first, let's check out what the 4070 can do at native 4K resolution in this game. In the Golden Temple area, we are getting 40 plus FPS. But this is a fast-paced game with a lot of combat, so I prefer having my FPS sit well above 60. Have a look at that VRAM counter. We are nearing the 11 GB mark. It has peaked at 11.44 GB. Now let's try DLSS set to quality. Well, achieving 60 plus FPS experience was pretty easy in this game. All it took is just enabling DLSS quality mode. DLSS resolution upscaling looks very good in this game, and I would normally enable DLSS quality anyway, regardless of which GPU I'm using, even if it was the RTX 4090. Now let's check if we can get a 120 FPS experience in this game. Let's enable frame generation and keep DLSS on quality for now. We are very far away from our target. At the moment, 80 plus FPS experience. So let's keep going. Let's enable DLSS balanced. And that is still not enough. We got closer to 90 FPS, but we still need more. We need a lot more performance to get to that 120 FPS target. So let's try DLSS performance mode. And we are getting closer. It's 100 FPS right now. But nah. It is not possible to achieve 120 FPS with the RTX 4070 in this game. And the CPU is not the problem, because it can keep up, and I've used the Ryzen 5 7600X previously with another graphics card to achieve that 120 FPS. One last thing we can try is AMD's frame generation instead of NVIDIA's DLSS frame generation, because you can use DLSS resolution upscaling in this game paired with AMD's FSR 3 frame generation. And that AMD frame generation actually got us closer to that 120 FPS target, but still, we are not quite there yet. So yeah, once again, the 4070 falls just a little bit short in terms of performance. It could use a little bit more oomph. Let's move on to the next game. This is Horizon Forbidden West, and we are going to use very high graphics quality preset. Let's start with native 4K resolution, no DLSS upscaling or frame generation. And the performance is around 40 FPS. Yeah, this is not perfect for this game. I really want to see at least 60 FPS in this game. It should be nice and fluid to enjoy it. The image feels just a little bit too choppy for my liking. Let's try DLSS set to quality first. And yes, this is nice. 60 plus FPS right here. Very good. Basically, this game performs really similarly to Ghosts of Tsushima, while I think that this game looks more beautiful than that one. Don't get me wrong, Ghost of Tsushima still looks pretty good, especially all the nature, but Horizon Forbidden West is newer, and it shows. However, there will be scenes in the game where the FPS will drop below 60 using these settings, so I think we have to use a more aggressive resolution upscaling. I think DLSS set to balanced should get the job done. Let's return to that tavern outside. The performance looks good, 60 plus. And let's see if we can manage to stay above 60 inside of the building here. Yes, indeed. We're getting 60, exactly 60 FPS. But this is one of the most demanding scenes I found in this game. So even if it drops slightly below 60, it is still fine. I mean, you're not gonna be doing any combat in this area right here. So it's okay. Most of the time you will be spending outside, roaming the landscape, and out here you can expect well above 60 FPS. The game uses 11 gigabytes of video memory and 13.4 gigabytes DRAM memory. That's system memory, your DDR. So there is a little bit of memory left over if you want to use frame generation. Let's try it. Let's see if we can achieve that 60 plus FPS experience if we set DLSS back to quality and enable frame generation. The FPS looks good. Yes. 70 plus outside, and will it drop below 60? No, look at this. It stays well above 60. Even 1% lows are at 58. This is a good experience. If you want your game to look as sharp as possible, then I think that this is the way to play Horizon Forbidden West. DLSS set to quality and frame generation enabled. If I were playing this game using the RTX 4070, I would use DLSS set to balanced, no frame generation. While frame generation looks absolutely fine in this game, I just think that resolution upscaling is doing a better job, especially if you like your controls to be as responsive as possible. But even with frame generation, this experience is absolutely beautiful. I am enjoying it. However, that frame time stutter, that's a little bit concerning. And we are using a little bit more DRAM, which means that some assets are actually spilling over into RAM instead of being kept in video memory. That may cause some issues with the performance, like little hiccups. But as you've seen just now, it doesn't appear to be happening often. However, to ensure that maximum stability, I still prefer using resolution upscaling only without frame generation, because this is a 12 GB graphics card and frame generation does eat up a lot of video memory, as you can see there. Yeah, it's just I really wish Nvidia would have made these graphics cards with 16 GB of memory. While 12 GB in 2024 is absolutely fine so far, it does begin to show that there are some small hiccups here and there that, you know, are pushing me towards not using frame generation, even though it's one of the main features of the RTX 40 series graphics cards. And just then, you've seen that frame time spike, and I felt it on the screen as well. Yeah, not very nice, because this could have been avoided if Nvidia granted this graphics card more video memory. And as we move to other locations, that stuttering still happens. So yeah, that just tells me that using frame generation in this game is a no-go, at least for me, because I don't like stutters. In conclusion, it is still very much possible to use the RTX 4070 to have a good time in all of the latest games on a 4K monitor. However, cracks do begin to show. In Hellblade 2 we had to use frame generation to have a good time. So yeah, even DLSS performance mode is sometimes not enough if you want to use the highest graphics quality presets. With that said, I think that the 4070 Super is a better option. If you are looking to buy this, just grab the 4070 Super instead. It costs just $50 more and it has a significantly better performance, which will come in handy if you are playing on a 4K monitor. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can buy them on Amazon at the links in the description below. If you found this video helpful, then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more if you haven't already. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.